All right, well, good morning. Thank you so much for coming today. We really appreciate you. Like we say at every event, we would not have this ministry if you do not attend. So we would be speaking to an empty room. That's not fun. So thank you so much for coming. And for those of you online, thank you so much for spending time and joining us today. So I know that we all have different reactions to the word hospitality. Some of you might break out in hives at the thought of someone coming into your home, whereas other y'all are experienced hostess that live for a party. And that's okay. We are all where we are. But our focus for today is just to meet you where you are and encourage you to take one step in this area, wherever that may be. So don't feel like you have to look a certain way or model after a certain person. God has given us all different giftings and talents, and where those might help you be experienced in this area, that doesn't necessarily disqualify you. Throughout the Bible, there are multiple times where we are told to be hospitable. So regardless of whether you feel gifted or not, you should be hospitable. So that is what our goal is today, to explain that, what it is, and encourage you to do that in a way that glorifies the Lord. In a moment, you will hear from a group of ladies about hospitality and what that means, and to tell you that it's not perfect and it's not supposed to be. I saw this quote that really spoke to me. It says, "Hospitality isn't about inviting people into our perfect homes. It is about inviting them into our imperfect hearts." And so that happens when you do invite them to your home, but it's not about where they are coming and what it looks like. It's about you and what you are offering. It's about the memories that we share over a cup of coffee, or the stories that we tell each other around the dinner table, or the freedom that we have to cry on one another's sofas as you're struggling with something and being encouraged by your sister. I will be the one crying on your sofa, apparently. So today we wanted to provide you with some tools to help you in your hospitality journey, wherever you might be. But please do not feel pressured in any way, again, that it has to be a certain way or look a certain way. But we did want to provide you with some tips and things to help you. So in an effort to equip you, we have your binders. I had one there, but I'm going to pick it up. In your binder will be some quotes and some verses, along with some recipes that we have gathered. And our goal and desire for this is to become a working resource where we can add to it. As you find a recipe, you can email it to one of us so we can share it with all the ladies. If you have a testimony that something, we can include it and write it down, share notes, use that as your planning if you're planning a party or things like that. So again, this is to become a resource that will grow with us as we grow in this area. So without further ado, let's hear from our ladies. Thank you so much for spending the Saturday morning with us, and I can't wait to hear.
Good morning. I was telling the ladies, I'm Whitney Loria, and I'll be facilitating, but I was telling the ladies that this is a bit of a maiden voyage for me, so I'm trying to tell my body that it's not as nervous. Well, my body is trying to tell my mind that I'm more nervous than I am. So, but my happy place would be to have you all in my home. So that's how I'm imagining you all sitting on my sofa, because that's more what I'm usually equipped to do. So, but the ladies that we have gathered today are just all ladies that are super dear to me, and you've probably experienced their hospitality to you. It's likely that you've experienced some of that. So I'll have them introduce themselves. If you can go ahead, yes. Well, and if you want to share a little bit, or kiddos, or
Sure.
whatever.
Hi, I'm Gina Collins. I'm married to Pastor Keith, and it's just us. I don't think that there's really anybody new here, but we have 7 children, and I do love opening up my home for hospitality.
So I just talk. Okay, I'm Donna E. Byer. I'm married to Glenn Beyer. We raised 3 sons, Samuel, Micah, and Caleb, and I have 2 daughters-in-law, Mary E. Beyer, formerly Gresset, and Abby Loria, now E. Beyer. And I have 4 grandchildren. I have 4 grandchildren, Titus, Joyafin, and Sal, who is here today. Yeah. And you put this in our notes. How long have we been, that's it. Y'all know I'm nervous. Okay. I started coming to Lakeview when I was 13 years old, and I did the math last night when I was making notes, and that's 48 years. So, wow. Not the whole time, 48 years, but so 38 years. Thank you.
Now I have to name all of my grandchildren. I'm Martha Del Giorno. I'm married to Victor. I'm sure everyone knows who he is. But we have 2 daughters, Katie and Emily, and they are married. Nick Vobel and Matt Bellarino. We have 4 grandchildren: Harper, Ford, Wells, and Wesley. I don't know if I should say his real name or not.
No, we don't call them names.
And so, yeah, I showed up here a long time ago with Donna. I'm the baby of the family. She's one of my older sisters. Not that much older, but anyway, I'm the baby. So I came here when I was 5, and remembering our wonderful mentor, Nancy, when they were here, much younger, and Bill with black hair and black glasses, and just, so we've been here a long time. But again, bounced in and out a little bit, but anyway, is that it? Is that good? Okay.
Good morning. My name is Amanda Tucker. I am married to Todd Tucker, of course. We have 4 children and 1 on the way. I have been going to Lakeview since 2004, minus a few years of traveling around as well.
Well, so the prayer for our time has been that you all would walk away today having had fun, being equipped with some practical info, but mostly that the Spirit would make clear to each of you how He would want you to apply and run after what He has specifically called each of us to in hospitality, because it's going to look different for each of us. Our culture now, and even years ago, the word hospitality could quickly bring to mind the latest issue of Southern Living, or how about Martha Stewart's show, Martha Stewart Living, where every segment ended with, "It's a good thing." I watched a lot of those. But maybe a good place to start this morning would be to define the word hospitality. So, Ms. Donna, would you define, or how would you say that God's word has defined the word hospitality for you?
I prepared an answer because you told me I was going to have to. Anyway, I read scripture concerning hospitality, and my response and my definition is going to be sort of based on Romans chapter 12, verse 13, where we're instructed to contribute to the needs of the church, practicing hospitality. And I don't know if I go on from here now. Okay, so I just was thinking last night too, when I was reading this and preparing to be with everybody today, how that my understanding of what the word meant with regard to hospitality has evolved over the years. I mean, the first time that I received hospitality outside of family at home was in a church. It was in this church, and I didn't even know what hospitality meant. I don't think I even knew the word hospitable, and I certainly didn't know the scripture yet about concerning that. So from my heart today, I would like to point that out, that it's changed over the years, and the way that it works out is different. But I'm trying to share with what I thought in reading and praying, how it would be most applicable to everyone here. So I'm just going to go real quick. When I first started coming to Lakeview, there was a couple. They had 4 children, and the wife was 30 years old, and the husband was 30 years old. So they were 30-year-olds with 4 children, and they invited me into their home. And as a young person, as a 14 and 15-year-old, you know, I desperately wanted social. I desperately wanted to know how that went, being a Christian, learning the word and doing all that, and how to do that. And when her name is Dawn Catalanato, some of you may know her. She happens to be Flo Alleman's sister-in-law. Anyway, I sat in her house, and they sat around that table. Sometimes she would have a big old meal, or sometimes she'd just have snacks. And the kids, the young people, they flocked to that house. And the season she was in, where she had teenagers, and she was able to see those kids, see her kids who they were hanging around with, meet their parents, learn about the blessing that comes with sitting around a table or sitting in a room, laughing and talking, and then invariably it always went to a testimony, tears, someone being ministered to. So I knew I wanted to do that, and I knew I liked that, and I needed that. And so over the years, I began to try and mimic her, and she was certainly walking out the word by doing those things, you know. So it seemed so effortless for her, and I wanted it to be effortless for me. And so as time went on, the church would allow me to do some things with the youth, and, you know, open my home and cook things and do things like that. But ultimately, I learned that the food was great, but it wasn't the need or the hunger need. When Paul writes, you know, like, contribute to the needs of the church, the need was to be among God's people, God's family. Some of us had family who knew the Lord, and some of us did not. And those relationships and those times of sharing and benefiting from someone else's hospitality stay with me to this day, to this very moment, you know. So, yeah.
So good.
So that's the sort of way that I was thinking.
I do feel like so much of what we have seen is what kind of God uses to write that into our hearts.
Right, yeah.
What about you, Amanda? How would you define hospitality, or how has God defined that to you?
I think I keep it fairly general as far as a definition. It would be something along the lines of drawing people in and caring for people. You know, I guess when I first think of hospitality, you think of like the Trinity, like the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are hospitable to one another. And then that gets poured out into us. We are, you know, once strangers and now become children of God. And then we get to reflect that to others and drawing others in. And obviously we're all children of God, but there's a feeling of disconnect that I think, I'm not a history buff, so I can't speak to hospitality throughout the ages, but I just think it's so important and critical and desperately needed in our current time, and I feel really strongly about that. Even before COVID, there was a season where Todd and I were feeling particularly just not connected, and just felt like everyone else is connected and we're not. So after feeling sorry for ourselves for probably too long, we started inviting people over, and I would ask people, like, who are you connected with? Like, who are you doing life with? And consistently heard, like, the answer, like, nobody. And it just was really eye-opening that perhaps one of Satan's tactics is to convince us that we're the only ones who feel alone. And I don't know, it just really encouraged us to fight forward. I think hospitality is, I'm stealing this from someone in here, but is like a shot of light into the darkness, and it helps draw us in. Another analogy makes me think of is like the merry-go-rounds we played with as kids that they don't have anymore, where you're like spinning and you're all like going outward. And I think our culture does that to us as far as isolation, and hospitality is that drawing in to the body of Christ. I mean, community is really important, obviously, in the Trinity, in the body of Christ. You know, we talk about the analogy of a body, the toes over there and the fingers over there, like that's a problem. And so I think hospitality is a means of drawing all of us together.
Oh, I love that. In Romans, Paul gives us the marks of a true Christian. He says, let love be genuine, abhor what is evil, hold fast to what is good, love one another with brotherly affection, outdo one another in showing honor, Do not be slothful in zeal, be fervent in spirit, serve the Lord, rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, be constant in prayer, contribute to the needs of the saints, and seek to show hospitality. And that is a long list of things that today we're just going to scratch the surface on one of them. But one thing, excuse me, one that can feel, this particular one, it can feel maybe overwhelming at times. And so, Gina, what would you say to someone who is overwhelmed or someone who maybe feels limited in their season or gifting?
Well, limitation is a word that I'm very familiar with, so thank you for the question. I would say that the Lord is the one who determines the boundaries and the seasons of our lives. He sets those times. And those are often accompanied by limitations on our time, limitations on our capacity. Maybe we're in a season that we'd like to do more than we're able. But limitations are not something to be despised. I think limitations actually put us in touch with dependency, which is where God always wants us to be. But he wants us to move and live in the grace that he provides for us in the middle of those seasons of limitations. And as we talk about hospitality, I think that we tend to put it into a very small box of just hosting people or preparing a beautiful meal or a lovely table. And while no one loves a good dinner party more than I, that's a very small dimension of true hospitality. True hospitality, I think, really is the person we are on the inside. It's who God has created us to be. And a hospitable woman, she moves toward people. She takes a step toward people, and she seeks a connection. She rejoices with those who rejoice. She weeps with those who weep. And maybe that is inviting you to her home for dinner, but maybe that's sending a text to say, let's get together for coffee. So I think that hospitality for a godly woman is much more broad, sweeping than just saying, yes, I'll sign up to host a covenant group, although that's something that we should lean in to do. But, and I think were we going to go on to the gifting? I think that
Well, sure. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I think the other part of the question that I had prepared to share was aspects of gifting and how do we, how do we discern how God has gifted us? Well, I think that that's a worthy pursuit to discover in this area of hospitality. How has God gifted me? What are the things that I enjoy doing, and not just the things that I can do? Because I think that the most generous heart and the most generous soul that leans in to give hospitality in whatever way that you're comfortable doing that and how God has wired you is the heart that isn't seeking to live in someone else's shoes, isn't seeking to tether myself to someone else's gifting. I think the most generous way that we show hospitality is discovering how has God wired me to serve people? And not only that, but how can I actually grow in that? Become a person who practices those things and takes risks and tries a new recipe and, maybe dives into the deep end and says, I'm going to invite somebody over after church for lunch. And just make yourself available to what might be there. But the aspect of gifting that I wanted to emphasize is that God has uniquely wired everyone in this room with a gift, and women flourish at that. Women are nurturers by nature. And so, hospitality is going to sit in each of us differently, but the way that you express hospitality is exactly what we need. It's not how someone else expresses hospitality. It may not be bringing someone a lavish meal on the birth of their baby or when a spouse has had surgery, but how you express that is the way that we need you to express the hospitality that the Lord has put in your soul.
Yeah. So in Scripture, we have a clear picture of hosting gone wrong, where Martha wanted to do all the things, And Jesus says that Mary was the one who picked the better thing. The better thing. It's like, but so Martha, not that Martha, but this Martha. How do we keep how do we keep from doing that in our lives? How do we keep from, because there are good things that are not just sitting, but how do we find that balance? How do we?
It's funny that my name is Martha because I am a Martha. It's terrible. It's in a, you know, double-sided kind of way. You know, on a daily life living way, you know, you get up and you have ideas. I'm going to spend time with the Lord, and I'm going to read my scriptures, and you know, you have good intentions, but then it's, you know, I'm reading and I'm thinking about the laundry, and I'm thinking about and I can't be the only one that does this, you know. But to just think, you know, spending time with you, Lord, is going to get me through the mounds of laundry and the dishes and whatever, cleaning toilets, which is so fun. But anyway, just realizing that, yeah, that is the better thing, to spend time with him and put him first, and it does get you through the day. And when you're walking in that, like to Keith that just spoke about abiding, just about when you're abiding in the Lord, I feel like you guys answered so deep, like spiritual questions. I feel like I'm like dog paddling, you know. Let me try and sound spiritual. But anyway, a lot of times when the Lord has used me the most, it didn't feel spiritual at all. Like I didn't feel like this big, I felt the anointing. You know, it was the most natural thing for me to respond and do. And so I'll tell you, Whitney wanted me to share a story of, so we built our home and we moved in, and that night Emmy got engaged. And so that was like February. And then come August, you know, June, July, August, we're starting Alpha. You know, every fall we start Alpha. And I go to Alpha and I come home and I get a phone call from this lady. Hi, my name is Linda, and you know, we have friends in common, a couple that we know out in California, and this couple that we know, their daughter and her son had dated for a while, and they got to know one another. And Linda's husband was in need of a liver and kidney transplant. So she was in town, he was at Ochsner, and she was saying, you know, I wanted to call and connect with you. And I was like, oh yeah, great, let's, you know, we'll go to dinner. You know, let's go to dinner tomorrow. So we go to dinner, and she proceeds to tell me how, you know, her daughter's leaving, and they were looking all day at furnished apartments and places to live, which are very expensive, and you know, looking for a place to stay, and some of the areas too. You know, here it's tricky, good area, bad area, right next to one another. And I was like, oh no, Linda, you don't want to stay there. To myself, anyway. And I was like, no. And so, but the whole time I'm looking at her and she's talking, you know, I had built this little house, like a guest house behind our house, and I was shoving all the workout equipment in there. The treadmill was getting out of the living room, out of the bedrooms, all that was going to be my workout room. And so while I'm sitting there, it's like, oh my God, she could go in there. She could go there. She have her own bathroom. She could cook. She'd be safe. She'd be, you know, because Lord knows how you just wait. You wait for the phone call. And so I'm just thinking, okay, all this while she's talking. And I was like, okay, well, do you have time after dinner? We'll go to my house and I'll just show you where I live or whatever. Okay. So we went to the house, and Matt and Katie were living with us at the time. They were trying to build their home. Emmy was not married yet, and so they were there. And so I just showed her my house. And when I got to the back, I was like, oh, it's kind of a mess back there. I'm not even going to show you that. She's like, oh, okay. What does she know? Nothing. So then she leaves, and so I said, why don't you come back? Another friend was coming in town, because she had these people that would come in and support her and then fly out, like fly in and out. And so she said, my friend Monica's coming in town. And so I said, why don't you and Monica come over for dinner tomorrow? And she said, okay, we'll come over for dinner. And so I told Vic, I said, you know, after that, I said, I really feel like the Lord wants me to open this back house to her instead of her. Well, if that's what you think, then go right ahead and do it. So Emmy helped me. I love doing a bedroom. I love decorating a table. We were at Target buying all kinds of sheets and things and just did like this little guest room. And it had a trundle bed too, so Monica could stay back there too, a little trundle bed. And so I had it all ready for her. They came over, they had dinner, and then after dinner, I said, oh, there's something that I want to show you. And she's like, okay, so I bring her in there. She says, oh, that's your workout room or whatever. And I said, well, sort of. And so I walked in there, and it was all set up. It had the candles, the smells, the candles going, the lamp, the ambient, it just looked so cute. And so we're standing there, and I said, Linda, I said, this is for you if you, I'll be the first one. This is for you if you want to stay here. And her friend was like, oh my God. And of course, Linda starts crying hysterically, but she's not making a sound. I've never seen a woman cry like that. She was hysterically crying, and I was like, well, you don't have to stay here if you don't want to. It's okay. This is for, if you want it, it's for you. Emmy's there, big old tears, And Monica's going, oh my God, you have no idea what happened today. She went to book, because she was staying over there by the IHOP. There's extended stay, whatever's over there. And she said, I went to confirm or rebook my next week, and they're saying that I didn't do it, and I had nowhere to go. And she says, oh, and here Monica and her, like, where are they going, I said, well, you guys can come, you can stay here if you want to stay here. It's totally fine. And she said, well, can we come tomorrow? I said, yes, you could come tomorrow. Just, it's ready, it's open, and you guys can come. So none of that felt it just felt very natural to me. It was a very natural thing. It was fun. It gave me joy. Felt like I was feeling a need for her. I wanted to protect her and I couldn't even imagine living in another state with my husband being so sick and not knowing anyone and living out of a hotel or a motel, just, so they came the next day and they she got all tucked in the back, okay? Then the flesh started to wake up and thinking, what in the world did I just do? My daughter's getting married, and we had like showers and lots of, my house is very active. It continues to stay active for some reason. I don't know why, and it was like, oh my God, what if something happens with him? What if something, and I started to get like really nervous. And then I thought, well, Lord, it's you. You're in control of all that. You're going to take care of all that. And so he did get his transplants. And so he was home by Thanksgiving. They were home by Thanksgiving, but that was certainly a time where I look back that at the moment, jumping in with all four, saying, just come stay at my house. I don't know you, but come live with me and cook in my kitchen and wash your clothes. And, and it's just like, that's the body of Christ, just so cool. And so the little cottage in the back has been used. Linda moved out and other people kind of rotated in and out, and then Vic wound up going in there, and that was the end of that, but of the cottage. But that a lot of times it's not necessary, and I think about that, and I just thank the Lord that I got to be a part of her story. So cool. That was a God thing. I had no idea that some stranger was going to come and be back there, and she introduced us to nacho night. It was fun. And anyway, just that when I tell the story, like, I did that and I opened my home, but God did that. God provided for her. And it's just real exciting. He's doing great now. They're all doing great.
That's great. When you told me that story, that was my first question to you was, because she said I had designed this space, and it was going to be my space, and then there was this person she was going to come into, and I was like, and she goes, no, but it was like, yes. And I was like, you have to share that story, just because it's like, that's what God does. These things that we hold tightly for ourselves, not even wrongly in some ways, but when we continue to hold tightly, we're not letting those go, but that it became a joy to give those over to somebody. Was just so cool. But I know for me, expectations and appearance having, and even in this moment, inside I'm like, I don't have it all together. I'm still fighting, but expectations and the appearance of having it all together was an incredible, and continues to be in some ways, an obstacle for me in my life. Early in my marriage to David, who most of you know, David is a Lauria, and that house was like a revolving door. And so whoever you were, whenever you came, you were always welcome, which was really beautiful. It was great for them. We got married, and I then was living with this guy who thought our house was also this revolving door. And I grew up in the middle of 15 acres. And so if someone knocked on the door, Daddy got the gun. So it's a bit of a, just a little bit. So a conversation early in our marriage, an example would be David saying, oh, you know, so-and-so is going to come over. They're going to be here. They're gonna come over and hang out. And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, they're going to be here in probably like 5 minutes. And I would go from maybe calm Whitney to a very angry, very fast tornado that would blow down anything in my way, including my guests at times. And my desires would trump their comfort and ultimately my care for them. It was sin that was keeping me from wanting to open my home. And as the years have passed, I am so incredibly grateful to the Spirit's work and the correction, and also my husband for giving me more than a 5-minute warning. We met in the middle somewhere there. But what joy has come through that. I have found that the deeper we go into community, the more willing we are to be vulnerable and potentially exposed in what we would consider our weaknesses. But that's really where the joy is. Culture would tell us that life is like Instagram, and it's all the pretty, most aesthetically pleasing packaged moments. But if we buy into that lie, we can be left feeling like what we have isn't good enough. And it can be the very thing that paralyzes us. Fight against it. It is worth the fight. The idea that I'm part of a hospitality panel, looking back as I was preparing, like, it's just the kindness of the Lord, because, I mean, if my pillows weren't karate chopped, nobody could come in the door. I was like, no, the pillows. Like, not to mention the sink, and now it's kind of like, you know, obviously those things, you know, you want those things. I say you want those things. I continue to desire a level of order in my house that is comfortable to me, but it doesn't keep me from doing what God's called me to the way that it used to. And I'm so grateful for that. So what now? As we've shared a lot of our hearts, let's say you want to branch out, maybe get a little outside your comfort zone. What's next? Let's get into the nitty-gritty, or the practical elements in hospitality. What are some of the things that you guys do to get ready for your guests? What are some things that maybe, do you have a checklist, or?
Well, depending on the event, if it's just another couple coming, there's obviously not as much detailed planning, but we were talking beforehand, and you know, when we are responsible to host something large, maybe it's a holiday and we're having family and extended family and friends who don't have family in town. In all honesty, you know, people can make it seem effortless, but there is nothing but hard work and planning that goes into making something lovely. And, you know, I think that we have a resource, but a page that have books that we are encouraging you guys to read. But one is, I read this in college, actually, by Edith Schaefer. It's called The Hidden Heart of Homemaking. And just extremely valuable. And, you know, I came from a very mainline denomination, and hospitality was encouraged, but, you know, if you wanted to do things special and make it lovely, it almost felt like you were being worldly and you were being frivolous and you were worrying about things that were overly fancy. And, you know, the reality is, when we're planning to have someone in our home, like I said before, women are really good at, you know, making things lovely. And there is a place for that. I think that communicates affection for people. When we go through the extra step of having flowers in a vase, I mean, it doesn't have to be a vase from Tiffany's, but it can just be a mason jar full of little flowers on your table, or some peaceful music playing in your home. And as organized as you can be to provide a meal for somebody, I think that those things are part of the hidden art of homemaking. And, you know, the Lord has he's given us ideas and things to grow in. And so in some of the practical ways, I won't go on forever, but I think that there's something to be said about practice. The 10,000 hour, I don't know if you guys have heard of that principle. It's like when you're really going to be good at something, you've given at least 10,000 hours to it. Well, something like that when it comes to hospitality. But the reality is, if we're going to grow in something, if you, everybody has a woman, I think, that you looked up to. And for me, when I had a bunch of little children, and every year my aunt would host us, and she was from the north, so nothing had an onion in it, and it lacked salt. But everything was so, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be offensive, but she just cooked very different than we did in New Orleans, but I felt so welcomed, and everything seemed effortless, and it was all prepared, and she wasn't scurrying around and anxious and nervous and yelling at people. It wasn't like a kitchen, where chefs are yelling, "Where's the lamb?" So, when I wanted to grow in those things, the reality is I had to practice. And so to this day, as much as I love hosting, at the end of the school year, I will take 2 to 3 recipes that are great for large gatherings, and I practice those during the summer. And I master them, and then you know what I do? I stick them in my repertoire, and then when I'm ready to host somebody, I'm not fretting all day, and I'm not anxious, and then, oh my gosh, I've only done this once, and now it's terrible, and so now what, then I'm fretting all the more. And I did hear someone say that, our guests are our guests. They're not our guinea pigs. So the more that we really have prepared well, the freer we are to serve them, and I just think the intentionality shows.
That's so good.
I would say I'm still much earlier on in the hospitality journey. So I do not have a checklist, and that's part of my personality too. I'm more of a go with the flow type person. So I don't have a checklist. I have learned not to clean too early because I want my little people to not live in my house for the next day or two. So for their sake, because it is their home and I want them to love hospitality. And for my sake, not to yell, we clean kind of towards the last minute. And then Ty and I have a new joke because we have a regular event at our house that something major will go wrong with one of our children the day of or the day before. And so just being prepared for that. So this last time I was pregnant, nobody knew it, I felt terrible. An hour before everyone shows up, my youngest falls and bites all the way through his tongue. So I'm behind on everything. But it's just, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be gross, but I'm a nurse, I don't care. So I apologize if that was gross. But it's just life. And I want people to know, like you're welcome no matter what. And I am so far from, I want to grow in loveliness. I've grown in it, but I have so far to go, but that's not going to keep me from being hospitable. So people showed up, and people who, at these events, sometimes people come that I've only met once or I've never met before, and they walk in and they're like, "Hey, can you cut that for me?" And while you're, if you ask me if you can help, I'm going to give you a job, and it might be taking out the trash. There was a wonderful girl who I just met at the well the day before who walked in, and I was like, "I'm really sorry, but can you sweep that corner for me?" And she did. It's where I'm at. And if you're going to come to my house right now, that's what hospitality is going to look like. And so it's very kind of fly by the seat of your pants. If we're not ready, then I'm really glad you're here to help me get ready. So.
Well, that's another kind of practical question that someone might ask is, do you have to cook? How do I make food on a tight budget? And do you prepare things ahead? What does that look like?
You do not have to cook. I was thinking when you were talking, Amanda, I love my home. I love that I have a home. I've loved raising my children and welcoming their friends into my house. And usually I invite people into my home that I know something about, and I want to love them, and I want to be hospitable. I want them in my home and to share time. So this is kind of off the subject, but we would go to a seafood place in Destrehan and order lunch when I was still working. And they would bring you whatever you ordered, and they had this little brownie on the plate. It was just lagniappe. You didn't pay for the brownie. They just gave it to you. And I thought, this is such a cool idea. I mean, a big old pan of brownies, 3 Duncan Hines boxes. They cost $1 a box, and you're just giving somebody this little brownie, this little extra. And when we left there, I said, Glenn, that you could, if you know somebody's coming over, if you can just, maybe put some mint in water, or, make a jar of, a pitcher of lemonade, or a brownie, or bread, or I remember Martha, kids ended up at our house one night. Caleb did this to me too. It was some of you may have been there. It was several years ago, and it was 4th of July, and 75 people, including John Mark Fezia. It was the first time I ever met him. He's walking down my driveway, and he goes, is this where Caleb lives? I said, yes. And who are you? And he told me. So they're all in there, and we're just like rummaging and pulling anything.
Pulling stuff out the freezer.
Anything. And, so you don't have to cook. I think it's always nice to have something, a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, some, cool water if it's hot outside. No, you don't have to cook. You don't have to cook. I know that it's expensive to put together all these things. And don't let that thwart that invitation. Come on over. Let's just spend some time together. And if people get hungry, you can think about something. There's going to be something there. But no, the hospitality isn't in the food.
That's right.
It's in the need,
Although when the teenagers are at your
They
home,
do want the food. They got
and
it.
they're all like, we're hungry, what you got? What's in there? And the crawfish pasta goes a long way. We learned that is the go-to. Always have frozen crawfish and always have pasta. And we would throw together, a big old pot of crawfish pasta back in the day when
Mrs. Schubert's rolls. Just
Yes.
throw them all in the.
And they didn't care. They were just so happy to have something. They didn't have credit cards and checkbooks and all that back in the day. So they were just, they wanted to gather together and be together. And a lot of times the moms and dads, they would be together, and then we would be together visiting and doing our thing. One thing that I was thinking about, though, through the years, when you're talking about hosting people and having things, and you remembered the little brownie, that was like, oh, look how...
Yeah.
Through the years of traveling and being all around, I don't know, I must have made mental notes of things that I thought were just kind of, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm going to do that one day. I'm going to do that. The folding of the toilet paper. You ever see the toilet paper? The little triangle at the end.
Nancy do that?
I love that when I see it. Look, it's so nicely made. It's so ridiculous. It takes 2 seconds to do. And I remember telling Emmy, go upstairs and see if that bathroom's... Mom, that's so silly. I was like, I love that, please. And so I'm up there folding the toilet paper. And, whenever we've had people, but the flowers and just little things. And it's okay if you don't do all of that if I'm coming to your home. But if you're coming to my home, I try to do all the little things that I think that are just so neat and fun. And, I like fresh white towels, fluffy towels, and a little this or a little, to let you know that you're special. I'm going to do that little extra, doesn't cost money. I'm just going to make sure that, I want you to enjoy your stay here. I want it to be nice and comfortable and homey for you. And so that's how I've moved on. And so I've had people say, because I've moved so many times. Those of you that know me, I've done the tour of America and finally back home. And I always told myself through the years, now you guys get to thumb through Pinterest and get all kinds of cool ideas. We would, Liz, flipping through the magazines, stacks and stacks of magazines. And if you liked something, you pulled the page out, and as Nancy taught us, you put it in a binder. And then you had all your favorite little things that you would go through. And I would tell myself before, Tara, I didn't have money in the beginning of my marriage to do things, and I would say, one day I'm going to do that. One day I'm going to have this. One day. And I just always just figured that one day I would do all of that, because I wanted to. I wanted to finally do it. And I did. I was able to, because the Lord allowed it. Lord was so gracious and kind to let all that happen. And now, I don't know how many can afford to go to fancy restaurants and bring their kids. That's always an adventure when you bring your children, and it takes more than an hour from sit down to finish. So, we get our fill when we watch Downton Abbey, and we freeze frame on the table that's been set so beautifully, and you're like, oh my God, look at the flower arrangements, and and not that you have to go over, that's so over the top, but just you gather little ideas that you like. I like that, and that's what you like, and then you put it on the table, and more than likely, someone coming to your house is going to go, oh my God, look at that, and it's going to give them a feeling. And so my main thing is I want to create an atmosphere when people come of just coziness and warmness, and for them to be able to grab a blanket, get up on the couch, and feel warm to share. Now, you may have snacks in the kitchen, you may not. I'm not the cooker, I'm not the cook. So we always do potluck. You're coming over, bring something, or not, whatever.
I
you
mean,
know.
I think that's a good point too. Like, if you are trying to host on a tight budget, a potluck even, just this, I remember Pete telling us with small group, because I was like, well, I'll just cook the food, or I can get the food from you, or like, what are we doing? It wasn't small group, it was something where we were having a dinner in our house, and Pete's like, no, let the people bring the food. And I was like, well, and he goes, no, because when people bring food, they feel invested in the time. And so what a gift that was to ease the burden. And it was a mutual gift, they were experiencing that. And I think when you were saying how you saw stuff in people's homes that made you feel a certain way, and so you implement that. I remember going into Miss Nancy's home for small group, and there was always a cheese board for Covenant Group.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, oh, that's such a good idea. That's such a good idea. And years later, I had a small group in my home, and I always have a cheese board. There's some form of that. And so I think there's something so beautiful about when we've experienced hospitality, something that has made us, we used to talk about feeling a certain way. There's something about when we get to implement that, it's just the ripples. I was thinking about that with Miss Nancy. There are ripples that she has left that will just kind of go on, that have touched us in different ways, and just being incredibly grateful for that. Another practical thing I was thinking was, Hope reminded me, I do cookies. It's my thing. Sometimes I'd love to reinvent the wheel, and then I'm constrained by my time. And so, like, Whitney, don't reinvent the wheel. Do what you know. So I know this recipe by heart. It's a massive recipe. And so I usually make about half of them, and I can either stick the other dough in the fridge or in the freezer. And it's just a level of ease that it creates where I can not tornado my guests with my fury of trying to get stuff done, and just get them in the oven. Another question we have is, what about getting our spouses on board? If we have this, if we're like, okay, we want to do this, we want to host people in our homes, but maybe our spouse is like, maybe not. Well, how would you guys answer that question?
I've never had that problem. I've always had the other side of the problem. Oh, let them all come. Let them all live here. We'll feed everybody.
Well,
It's
you know,
fine.
too, if your husband is uncomfortable with that, or for whatever the reason is, but you really feel like you want to gather. I know that sometimes hospitality isn't only what you do in your home, it's the way you are in someone else's home, by bringing something to help with that burden, or saying or asking someone, Liz, would you mind if I have some ladies from church over your house? But certainly
Right.
ask someone who is comfortable with that. And sometimes just to please the husband and not cause any problems there. I think that I've sometimes felt like, can I do it at your house, or maybe we can gather somewhere else, and
You just open your home.
or
for the activity.
picnicky, or whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy for sometimes it is an expense. If you're going to do a whole meal, you're looking at an expense, or hubby's working from home, or he wanted to do this today, and I want the game on. I don't want all you women up in there talking while I'm trying to watch the game, or whatever, So another thing that occurred to me in the middle of all this too was navigating some of those things, like when Dad doesn't want to. Our children, our daughters and sons are watching that too. So the way that you open your home, or the way that you react to people when they come, and the way that you notice things when you take your whole family to someone's house, that ripple effect goes on and on and on, outside of your family. I mean, we had a family that was an Italian family on my dad's side, and everything culturally was surrounded by food at the table. Everybody, it was very much a part. So a lot of times I find that people expect something, never just to go in and sit, See, I have my water. It's just sort of like, gotta have it.
So I'll piggyback off of that. The thought that came to mind too is that I learned that, especially moving around, and I was like a stay-at-home mom. I was home all the time. Me and Emmy were just there, and Katie got to go off to go to school. And I used to think, what am I doing? I'm doing nothing. I'm wasting away, But knowing that finally I would get to a place in a season where the Lord would use me, because I wanted to be used and use my home, that our homes are our first place of ministry to our husbands and our family, their children. But just like Hope said, just inviting a girlfriend over to sit on the couch and talk with a cup of coffee, just to come over, we'll have coffee and a snack or whatever. But yeah, that's our first place. And then God will take you from there. He'll provide the platters, like Tara said years ago, about having people over, whatever. She says, well, I don't even have a platter, I was like, well, I don't, it's just like 38, going on 39 years of accumulation of things, thinking if I buy this, I could use this for a tea, or I could use this for whatever, and just having this arsenal of teacups and stuff that I'll say, if you want to have a tea, you're welcome to use it. And, it's all for the Lord. It's all to be shared for whoever wants to also create that atmosphere and feeling for women, to make them feel special. A lot of times the moms, they don't go to teas, they don't have babysitters, they don't, so it's nice to say, well, come to the church or come to our house and we're going to have a special little gathering, And there was something else I wanted to say and I forgot what it was.
Well, it's already been touched on a little bit, the unexpected things that happen when we're hosting, and how we just kind of either roll with it or it kind of blows up. Does anybody have any specific stories where you're just kind of like,
This is my cue.
go for it?
So many, many years ago, I worked for a gift shop my girlfriend owned in Kenner called Tattletales, and her name is Denise Carpenter. I don't know if you know her, but Denise was just the consummate Southern woman, beautiful, young. She had her gift shop, and her hands always were so good. And she would talk, and she would always say, it's all good, it's all good. And if you came into her store, would you like a cup of Southern pecan coffee? How about a splash of vanilla cream? She'd do like that, And, not just, you want cream? Had to be a splash of cream. I just watched her, and just gleaned from her. So one Christmas, at that time, it was really, I don't know what, but excessive, yeah. The way I would decorate my house for Christmas. I mean, every single surface had some kind of something on it.
We got a discount, that's why.
Yeah, and so I was going to have the Tattletales gift shop Christmas party at my home. So here we go. I got Glenn in the gear. Glenn loves to make a list. He loves to light the candles. He loves to do all of that stuff. Then he wants to leave. But he's got his assignment. What time do I light the candle? When do I start the fire? When do I turn the music on? So I'm ready for Tattletales to come over from my house. I'm dressed up with my bulb earrings. It was just crazy. So my meal was ready. My appetizer's ready. Everything's ready. Everything's Christmas. Everything's wonderful. So he lights the fire, and it's hot outside, of course. It's December in the South, so it's hot. So we have the air conditioner on, and he lights the fake fire log that you like, the paper on the curve. It really works really good. So he lights that. I just remember one part of this story. And he says to me, all of a sudden, smoke is pouring into my house. Stinky, chemical, disgusting smoke smell. Thwarting, killing all my Aspen Bay Christmas fragrance candles and the delicious smell of the roast in the oven and the whatever. And he says to me, you didn't open the flue? And I was like, the flue? I don't even know what a flue is. You're in charge of the fireplace. So there we go, and it's about time for everybody to arrive. And with the Christmas scallops, Tattletales party. So
I'm upstairs blow drying my hair.
Martha, Because always, that's another thing that we do for another day,
We need a bath.
You get ready before 2 minutes when everybody arrives. You get your bath first thing in the morning and not, I'm going to go get dressed now while I'm standing there with all the chaos. So,
Sliding in the home.
anyway, so Glenn's just saying, I'm going to open the flue, I'm going to turn on the air conditioner, I'm waving smoke out, My eyes are burning. And ding dong, here they come. So I'm just thinking he'll take over, he'll handle it. And that's the time when Glenn's like, oh, well, I'm done my job. I'm going to so-and-so's house, goodbye. So they're talking, we're laughing. All I could think of, all I could see, all I could smell was that thing. And I got so angry. In the kitchen, that blue and white, some of you women may know the blue and white, the roaster pan, the speckle pan, the blue and white roaster. I got that fireplace log hooker thing like that, and I opened that fire, got that thing, dumped it in that thing, went in my backyard, and just flung it out there, So it still stunk in my house, but not too long after that, they began to laugh, and we began to talk, and we began to eat. Nobody said anything about the smell. Nobody said anything about anything, and I let that just ruin everything for me, thinking that it wasn't perfect. But at the end of the day, and when they were on their way home, we had a lovely time together, memorable to this moment. I would love to have the Tattletales crew back over again, only we wouldn't have a fake log. But
With the flue clothes.
yeah, that was a fail, but they didn't feel like it was a fail. I felt like it was a fail, and I really could have just, I guess I do still talk about it, but anyway, it was a good time, and had nothing to do with what we were celebrating. The birth of a Savior, the reason why he came, and us having that moment to gather together, and make a memory. So, yeah, that was
worth it all.
Yeah. No more fake logs.
You want to share?
I have a memory when I was just learning how to host Thanksgiving and had a bunch of little children and, wanted to make a lovely table like Donna and Martha. And, I just wanted it to be done well, and I wanted to bless my family. But I did say, okay, well, I'll host. And I just asked my in-laws if they would just do the turkey, and I would provide everything else. And so I thought that was fair enough. And so, I'm getting all of the children ready, and I have their clothes all ironed just so they can just jump in, and everything's ready to go. So much planning, 3 or 4 days leading up to that, the setting of the table. And so sure enough, I'm warming everything. The rolls are in the oven, and I'm just waiting for people to come in and everything. And so guests are arriving, and everything just seems wonderful until my precious little in-laws show up with a frozen turkey. So they did bring the turkey, but the turkey had not been cooked. So I guess they thought that somehow I was going to do that. Even listen, there are fails constantly. Just recently I hosted something for Jack in the rental, and I guess we had maybe 40 people, and I just said, okay, I'm going to do a couple of desserts. And so I went and I did the same dessert, which is like a Brita cake, which is just a very easy vanilla cake that you cook in a sheet pan, and then on top of that you make a meringue and you bake the meringue on top of the cake. So it's like you have a layer of cake, you have a layer of meringue, and then on top of that, when it's cooled, you add whipped cream with creme fraiche and then berries. Okay, so I can promise you, it's not an easy dessert it's not a difficult dessert to pull off. It really is not, but it's a lovely presentation. But I've wrestled with this oven in this rental for about 8 months. And so, I always do my desserts first, and then I'm moving to the other, your proteins and then your salads. But we were just actually doing crawfish, so I was just responsible for the desserts. So, and of course, hors d'oeuvres. But anyway, so I did one cake, and then I had that one cooling, and the only thing I really needed to do was just add the berries and the whipped cream at the very last minute. But when I went to take one of the cakes out of the pan, when I took the parchment off of it, it just was not cooked. The cake was not cooked. So I had to throw the entire cake away. And it just happened. I didn't worry about it. My husband was like, why did you throw that away? I like cake batter flavor. I said, I was not serving a raw cake to people, so it happens and you just roll with it, and then you cut the only cake that you have for 40 people in a piece this big.
Oh my goodness. I am notorious for trying out recipes for the event. And so when I text Miss Gina and say, oh, do you know of any, thing? She's like, oh, you should try this. I'm like, okay, great. I didn't tell her those for tomorrow. And so I'm like, I'm going to try it. And I was like, ooh, I'm going to put this anchovy encrusted. It's got this umami flavor. This is going to be great. This is all for small group Friendsgiving. Big thing. So get this rib roast. Smack that puppy with
Very expensive roast.
It was. I was like, this is gonna be so good. It's gonna be so yummy. It was the holidays, exactly. It's decadent. And I just smothered that guy in a lot of herbs and these little fishies that were supposed to create this lovely flavor that was not going to taste like fish. And I kept telling David, it's not going to taste like fish. I listened to the video and I watched the recipe and it's going to be delicious. And we pulled out of the oven and it kept smelling like fish. I think Mary was there when I was like, it's going to be great. She's like, David's like, no.
She's so sweet.
And I know, she was very encouraging. I was dead set on this was going to be great. And I pull it out for our small group and everybody's like, it's good. And David's like, still tastes like fish. And I said something to Gina about it the next time I saw her, and I was like, yeah, I did for small. She's like, you did it for small group? And I was like, well, yeah. And she goes, you didn't try it? And I was like, no, I didn't try it first. I just whipped that puppy up. I said, but it tasted fishy. She goes, you used anchovies? And I was like, yeah, like the sardines or the anchovies, whatever. And she goes, oh, no, Whitney, that's not the sardines. I was like,
She used a sardine. Very different than an anchovy.
it in fact was surf and turf. And that's just how I'm going to roll with it.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
But
David said the interior was cooked to perfection.
it was. He did say that. He did say that. Were you wanting to share something else or no? No, that was it. Okay.
I just love that story.
Oh, it was. And then I realized how my small group must be afraid of me because they didn't tell me it was fishy.
No fish on the menu.
I was like, oh no, guys, y'all gotta be honest. So before we close, is there anything else that just is kind of bounced around your heart that you wanted to share? I don't want to end without giving you guys a sec to.
The word flexible is coming to mind. Vic had his share of doing that too. Oh, so-and-so's coming over for Thanksgiving dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Some single guy from the radio station, and I'd be like, oh, strangers coming to my house. And then you have to be on, you have to be like, oh, hi, so where are you from? And sometimes you're just not in the mood. But to be flexible and just realize it's an opportunity for the Lord's, grace to be seen. And just people see the Lord in you. We don't even realize it, Like we shared, Emmy in elementary school, she got the Christian Character of the Year award, and she was like, I don't even know why I got that. I don't even act like a Christian, So it's like sometimes we feel like we're not being all, Christian-like, and we have the presence of the living God living in us, and so people that don't have that, they sense it. They don't know what it is, but they sense it. And so just being open and flexible, and if the log makes smoke, then you just got to keep pressing through. Nobody really, the women are just happy to be going somewhere and chatting together and having a conversation without children for a little while and without the husbands and football in the background and whatever, just they enjoy that. So the flexibility, or, when someone shows up for Thanksgiving dinner that you don't see all year long, and all of a sudden they want to come to your dinner, and you're just like, so sometimes you have to give up your spot just quietly and let them sit, and you just putter in the kitchen until somebody else gets up, and then you dive in and you go have your meal, So, flexibility is
It's
good.
not always to the stranger either. It's a ministry where you receive, and the gift is from the Holy Spirit. I benefit greatly from the hospitality of my sister, just being able to sit at the table and listen and talk to her. The friends at church, I do. I really do. The other day I called Carolyn Asbury back, and I said, Carolyn, if I knew you would let me, I would come over to your house right now. And I was hoping she would say yes. Carolyn, and she said, well, yeah, come. She said, I look horrible. I said, I look worse, but I'm coming. And we did. We just sat under the carport. I smelled the gardenias blooming. It was just lovely and much needed. She was hospitable, and I benefited from that. It's, when it's in there in Romans, it really doesn't have a whole lot to do, I'm sure, with all the beauty. It's the ministry, God's people ministering one to another. It's a gifting in women, very much so. And it doesn't always have to be food. It doesn't always have to be a whole Bible study. I've sat in my living room. I'm going to end with this. I host a tea sometimes at Christmas, and this particular Christmas, the last of us were there, and of course Carolyn always lingers because she wants to help. I don't ever want to clean up when my people are there. That can wait. I'm like, no, we are not cleaning. We are visiting. So, but it was to that point, and one of the ladies who was with us, a dear friend of ours, began to really open up about things that were going on in her life. And there was the moment, just a wonderful moment where we were able to listen and minister. And even after she left, that was in there and a matter of prayer. And the reason why we gather together, especially now, y'all, for so long we couldn't, and now we're finally like back to where we can open our homes, and if people are comfortable, we can resume that in a culture, especially in the South. People love to gather, and they long for it, and they miss it. So I'm really loving being able to feel comfortable to be in here with y'all today. So anyway.
I just wanted to add, I'm early on in my hospitality journey, as I mentioned, and I want to be at a certain place at some point. And if I don't start those 10,000 hours, for example, I want to cook sourdough, and I've been thinking about it for 3 years, but I've never started, so I'm not any better than I was 3 years ago. And hospitality is the same way. Like, you got to just start somewhere, start small and easy. And then as far as, and Gina touched on this as well, the limitations we have are from God. And so, for example, I walked in my house before I came, and I don't have a single piece of furniture in my house that I have bought. It's all hand-me-down, which sometimes makes me a little sad or whatever, but it's also God's kindness, because if your kids are in my house, there's nothing they can mess up that I would care about. So just making the most of what you do have, and what the Lord has for you is perfect, and it's not going to match the sister next to you. And so with limitations, I also have to go to the opposite side of, if I gave you a list of my life, you would probably be like, oh yeah, you don't have time for hospitality, but we can always make excuses, and I want to stretch and grow now. I don't want to wait another 10 or 15 years. And so if you think you can't, maybe even talking to older women, who can maybe give you some ideas of how to start moving forward in it.
And I just wanted to add that, I don't remember oftentimes what people have served me, but some of the most hospitable homes I've been in, I've just felt nurtured and cared for. Yeah. One of the most memorable meals Keith and I had were with missionaries in Italy. It was hot. There was no AC. We were being eaten by mosquitoes, and yet I can tell you my soul was so cared for by a couple sitting across from the table and just drawing us out and caring for us. So, people aren't going to remember your house. They're not going to remember the flowers on your table, but they will remember how you made them feel.
Yeah, I think we're all wired differently, and I think for us to walk away encouraged in some way to let down guards or to branch out, I think is what the Spirit wants for us. So I just wanted to close with this quote. Really encouraged me and made me feel like truly this is, if God's calling us to it, it's His work, and it's big, not for the sake of it being a big production, but it is eternal work. It says, showing hospitality is a fight. Satan will convince you 6 ways to Sunday that you don't have time to share your table with others. Whether scheduling issues, sports practices, fatigue, or money constraints, there will always be a reason not to invite others over for dinner. But hospitality is worth the fight. When you survey your kitchen at the night's close and it is filled with dirty silverware, piles of plates, paper ones can go in the garbage, and a sink overflowing with greasy pans and pots, may you realize these are the well-used weapons of war against the darkness. Make your ladles, casserole dishes, and cookie sheets become your trusty sidearms in our fight to expand his kingdoms. I was just so encouraged by that. It just was like, oh, there is serious work to be done, and it's what we've already been gifted with, and for us to use it, So just very encouraged for you ladies and encouraged by what you guys shared this morning. So thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you so much, ladies. I know I was so encouraged by you guys and the experience that y'all have and willingness to share what the Lord has done in you to prepare us to step forth in that as well. So thank you very much. Again, in an effort to equip you guys, we're going to take a 15-minute break, and then we have two things happening. One is a hands-on snack for you. We thought it'd be fun to give y'all an idea of something you can do at your home, invite others in. It's a fruit pizza bar, so we made sugar cookies, and we have a few different toppings. Sometimes you could just do Cool Whip, or we have lemon curd and Nutella, so you put that on top, and then an assortment of fruits and other toppings that you can put on. So one, it is an activity for your guests, and then two, it provides the dessert that you don't have to prepare the whole thing yourself. So we wanted to let you guys participate in that, and while y'all are doing that, we're going to set up for, we're going to have a demonstration. So in an effort to make your home lovely, some people are like, oh, I'd love to do that, but I have no idea where to even start. So Rebecca Bondi is gifted in this area tremendously, and she has graciously given her time to show us how to put together some flower arrangements that you can put in your home. So while we're getting that set up, please feel free to make yourself a fruit cookie pizza. And also, one of the recipes in your binder is a lavender lemonade from Gina. And so she has prepared it for us for y'all to taste. So you have a little sample of that and the recipe to go along with that for if you want to use that next time you host in your home. So we will see you back here in a few minutes. Thank you. All right, ladies, feel free to get a refill and take a seat, and we will hand it over to Miss Rebecca. I'm very excited because I've always wanted to know how she does what she does. So we're getting the behind-the-scene inside scoop. All right. Thank you.
Hello. I'm so excited to talk about flowers with y'all. And I've got to collect so many pretties, and I'm so excited to share how to arrange these with y'all. First of all, I was just thrifting. Usually when I'm like preparing to like make an arrangement, my favorite things to do is go to the thrift store and like find something that's like that excites me and that I want to put flowers in. And so I found this, but it was called a chiller, and it came on a tray, and I didn't know. Does anyone know what this is? I've never seen anything like it. Does anyone know what this is? You do? Yeah. No, I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, I'm not going to design with this today, but I was like, this looks like. Sometimes I design in chicken wire and to make the stems stay where I want them to stay. Yeah. Yeah, I was going to take this out and put my oasis in here. Yeah. it said chiller, so I thought it had like a food purpose or something. So I was like, I have no idea, but I'm gonna try that later. I'm not gonna try that today. But my favorite, like I said, my favorite thing to do is go to the thrift store and like for like a couple dollars find something that has like a lot of life to it, and like it's so exciting to me because I feel like the vessels are more unique, which gives it more like interest to it and more like variation and texture. And also it makes me so happy to think about like what life this lived like before like I had it. I'm like, I wonder whose home it was in, or what people were using it for. And also it's more sustainable to shop used instead of buying like something from Michael's or Hobby Lobby. And then like, yeah, it's just more sustainable to give things a second life. So, and it's just so pretty. Like, look how cute. I don't even know what this is for. And most of the time I don't, but I like to get things that are round. Sometimes I like to get things that are more elongated because the way I like to design is like more in a plane. This is round, like circular. I don't know. But sometimes I like to use like gravy boats or like casserole dishes. I like this one because it has a little stand. So I like to design with some of my flowers like hanging down. And so when it has a stand, that gives me more height to do that. But low little votives like this, you can just go like up with the height. And my flowers, I got all from TJ Maxx, from Trader Joe's. And then I also love to forage. That's my favorite thing to do is like, it's a lot harder in New Orleans. I've discovered when I'm from Pennsylvania, so there's just like a lot of like wild forestry and like other plants, and in Atlanta as well. There's, when I was living there, I drive around, like I'm constantly looking at like the sides of the road, like what can I use this for? What can I use this for? And you'll just like make mental notes. Like in my brain, there's like a little Google map like pin dropped, like, and all the different places I want to go back and like snip, snip, snip. So this is called Iliagnus. I used it a lot when I do like larger installations because the vines are really, really long. And it's really hardy, and it lasts not in water for a really long time. And it's really good for making garlands out of for tables. Like if you're doing like a long table, Iliagnus. This is not a good example, and I didn't cut any really long ones today. They can be like up to like 10 feet long when they're wild, and sometimes I will go on the side of highways and just clip, 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 and that you will see me there, and that's fine. But like a lot of times, like in parks, not in like the manicured, pretty places, but like back in the like trees and stuff, that's where you can like find places to cut, or like behind like Rouse's, or that's where I got these guys that I have been seeing and I've been wanting to cut, and they haven't been faring well in the vase. But that's just, you just have to like try things in advance and like put it in water. I'm like, will it last? And you'll find out how long it'll last in water or in Oasis. But yeah, Iliagnus is like really long, and you can twist these into like garlands and hang them places. It's just really pretty and branchy, and it lasts really well without water. It'll go crunchy in like a week. But but you can put it into Oasis too, like we're gonna do. I have no idea what this is. This was in my backyard. I'm probably not gonna use it. This is called Japanese Privet, and it's growing like everywhere right now, and it's blooming, and it's really pretty. And the other thing that I foraged, I think, those are just the four. And this is just some Confederate jasmine, which I have only worked with like Japanese jasmine before. I haven't really done much with the Confederate, and the blooms are getting a little sad, but we're still going to use them because it still has like some life and movement, and that's what I really like to incorporate into my designs. So I'm going to start. So before this, I pre-soaked some Oasis. I'm going to be designing an Oasis today just because it is a little bit easier, but like I was saying about sustainability before, I like to use things that first are like more economical. Like this is just chicken wire that I bought. It's like $4 for a huge roll that you'll like never use all of, and just ball it up and then put it in your vessel. And you can use waterproof floral tape to tape and like secure this in. You'll notice that I don't really choose glass when I'm thrifting, because you can see mechanics through glass, mechanics being whatever you're using to hold your flowers. I will use vases, but I like using shorter arrangements that I can like decide where I want the stems to go. And in vases, you don't really have much choice for where your stems are gonna fall. So I like using little votives. But I like using chicken wire because you can reuse it, and it's a lot better for the environment. Oasis has been used for several decades by florist shops, but it's not good for the environment or for the people who manufacture it. A lot of the dust that comes off Oasis is like toxic, and it's just not good, not that good for you. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but I like to use things that are just like better for everyone. And so there's a lot of waste, and these just go straight, I should leave this up here. These just go straight into the landfill there. Once you use it once, it's done. So, but I'm still using it sometimes. So, you win some, you lose some. But I got this from Michael's. It's just called Wet Foam. It's called Oasis, I guess, by flower shops because that's the most popular name brand, but they sell wet foam at Michael's and it'll work. So what I do to prepare it, it comes in little blocks that are about this big, and you want to pre-soak it at least an hour in advance. Some people say 24 hours, whatever. I'm not going to do it because once it's wet, it can't dry out again. But you just plop it on top of the water and don't force it under. You just let it sink by itself. And that will make sure that the insides they don't have pockets of air. Because if you try to push it under, there will be air pockets that don't get water. And then when you push your stems into it, it could find a cell or a pocket that doesn't have water. And you want all of your pretty flowers to be hydrated. So yeah, soak it in a bucket beforehand. So I'm gonna get started. I have this giant knife. This is all I could find in the kitchen. But you just chop it into the size of your vessel. So sometimes I just get a good idea and it will indent. I don't know how well y'all can see. This is I don't know, you can't really see it. But it shows you how big you need it. And so I'm just gonna cut it right there, and it chops really easily. And then I'm going to put it in here. I'm just going to chop my corners down so it'll fit. It's very satisfying. I've seen TikToks of people just cutting it for ASMR, just because it's really satisfying to cut. But so it is really fun. It's really gross to cut. It's really gross to cut when it's dry, and it makes that horrible that styrofoam sound. And it I've had bosses when I've worked in flower shops who have asked me to cut it dry, and I'm yes, and I chop it real fast. I'm so I don't hear that squeaky. That's so gross. Okay, so one thing I'm going to note, see how high this is above the vessel? I'm going to leave a little height so I can have some stems that are falling down, so I can angle them up, but I don't want it too high because that's just more Oasis that you have to cover. The higher you have whatever you're using, mechanics, however high they are above the rim of your your vessel is how much you're gonna have to use more flowers to cover that, because you don't want any of the mechanics showing when you're designing. I'm just gonna scooch this out of the way. And with the remains, you can shove them in the sides to give you more space, but you really don't need to. I'm just gonna chop this one down and set it in this other little vessel here so that we can use all of this, but it's pretty resilient. You can just shove it in there. And then chopping this guy for this little one. And then, that fit perfectly. And then all these scraps, you can just put it back in your bucket. But I'm gonna shave this down just a little bit so that I'm not having to design too much above. But it's really it's not that hard. some people, depending on like if you're going to be transporting it, like if you're designing somewhere where you're not going to be like you're taking it to someone's house or something, some people like to secure the oasis in with some waterproof flower tape. You can buy it at like Michael's, and it like sticks to the side, and you just do like a little X to keep it in there. I'm not bringing this really anywhere, and I'm not worried about it falling out, so I'm not going to. But yeah, what I like to start with is some greenery and some like more sticky stuff that has like a little bit more wood. And all I use are my clippers. Eep. And then I'm gonna get a branch that I like its shape. This is where you're really building the shape. This is like a little tall. And the taller you go, the more that's like you're defining like the space that you're going to be designing within. So the larger you start, like the more materials you're gonna have to use. So if you keep your first one a little lower, then it gives you like less space if you have less flowers. But if you want to really go big and dramatic, then I like to go really tall with my first piece. Yeah, so I don't like the blunt edge of that. I probably snipped it, so I'm gonna look for another piece. But yes. All right. And for my flowers, I got them from Trader Joe's on Thursday. I might have even gone like a little earlier for the roses, like maybe Wednesday. And just because I like to have, when they're in the store, they're a little tighter. And I like to get them a couple days in advance so it gives them time to really bloom and open up, because you want them to be at the prettiest when they are going to be on display. So I'm just starting with like a shape. I like an asymmetric design, and so I just start with like one tall, one short, and I am gonna like kind of build off of this. But if you find a piece that's like really inspiring to you, that you're like, oh my gosh, that's so pretty, put that as like your main focus. And I'm gonna get some of this Privet, pull some of these pieces out. But you really start with like your greenery just to build like shape. And if you were wanting to like operate on a budget, you could just forage everything. Like you can just get greenery and build it out of greenery, and that would be free. And you can just go in your backyard and cut down your trees like me. So, and it's still pretty because you're making like a pretty shape out of it, and it's not like where you would expect to see it. So you expect to see a tree outside. You don't expect to see a tree inside. So it's fun. I'm just adding some like volume here. Yeah, it's already pretty. So like if there are blunt ends, that doesn't mean you have to waste them. You can just chop them down and hide them inside, because you're gonna need some like volume. But don't like shove too many in there, because negative space is also really important, because it emphasizes like the flowers that are there. And if everything's really like tight, then you don't really notice the flowers that are there. Also, I don't like to keep my things, I say roundy moundy, because that's what I learned from a designer that trained me. I don't like to keep things like tight and like organized into like a little bulb. I like to keep them like loose and organic, like they've been growing there and you just brought it inside. So I'm just kind of greening it out, and I have like a shape that I like, and I'm kind of just like working around that. But if you're going to be sticking it in like a corner or something like up high, then you can really make it one-sided. But if you're making a dinner, like a dinner table piece, then I would make sure it's like 360 pretty. And also this, I wouldn't go with like as high of a vessel if I was doing like a dinner table piece, just because you want your guests to be able to see each other across the table. And so I'm going very high with this because I like how dramatic it is. But yeah, keep them like a little lower. You can still go asymmetric and like have one little like star actress at the top that's like pretty, because you can see past that, but don't like keep a lot of the volume close to the top. So yeah, I'm using like some Privet just to like filler. So I like the Privet a lot because it gives a lot of fullness, where that will like give a lot of coverage for the oasis. But I don't want to like get too excited with it because I want to make sure I still have some space for my flowers. But yeah, we're just building a base. And I think I want to give like a little supporting actress right here. So I'm going to look for a piece that is like that. But not everyone has to be, oh, things are falling. Someone was saying something about preparation and like ahead of time, and I was laughing because I always think that things are just going to be like, oh, it's just easy. Yeah, you just throw it together. And like I like every single time I just remind myself that it's not. And then I still am last minute running around, snipping trees and throwing things together. Okay, so I feel like I have a good base right here. So I'm going to come in with some roses because I just want to hide some like inside to give color like close to the center of the arrangement. These petals on the outside, some people call them guard petals. They just get some of the bruising from transportation and stuff. A lot of them are flown in from like Ecuador or Ethiopia. Expensive ones will be grown in California, but this one has like a little like bruising and like brown veining on the inside, so maybe I wouldn't use them, but they're like a little older, so that's okay. And if you hide them down towards the center, like nobody's gonna see that, and they're all just pretty. But one thing I like to do with my roses is I like to reflex the outside petals it just makes them cooler, I think. It gives them more interest, and it's like not something you would see like in like a flower shop, so you're just giving it like more life and volume. Sometimes they won't reflex well. Like this one's not doing that great of a job, but it's still fine. But that's why I like to get them a couple days in advance too, when you buy them and they're really tight, they'll tear. Like the petals will tear when you try to reflex them. But see how I just like opened up the outside and it's so much more fluffy. So I'm gonna cut him kind of short and then stick him like down in like right there. And there's like, in floristry, there's like the rule of thirds and like art, just in general, in photography, in painting, I guess. I don't know much about painting, but planting? Oh, plating. Yeah. And just like, yeah, the rule of thirds where you just having 3 of like a color or like, especially like a flower, just visually does something that's pleasing. So I'm gonna put 3 in right now, and I'm gonna kind of like make a triangle. They don't all have to be like equilateral triangles or like isosceles triangles and all the. My mom's a geometry teacher, so I'm not gonna try to go in depth because she'll be like, but I'm gonna stick this guy out like here. See, he's having his little moment, and he's so much prettier because he's reflexed. Like, I just think so. And I'm going to add another one, like, up here. I might even add him a little shorter, but for now he's good. I might go back and change that. But I'm going to add a 3rd rose. And this is also, like, I think literally anyone can do this. Like, I really do think, like, it's not that hard. Like, don't be intimidated. They're just flowers. Like, they're pretty by themselves, so you can't really, like, mess them up that much. Just stick them all together and call it avant-garde. So... I'm going to add this one a little longer since the other ones are shorter. Some people take all of the petals off, or all of the leaves off. Don't take all the petals off. All of the leaves off, and this one's kind of like more like romantic and like organic looking, so I might leave, that one looks pretty, so I might leave that one on. But if you're going for, typically when I think of like a more expensive arrangement, like I think that it has less greenery and less foliage. So if I was like doing this for like an upscale wedding, or like, it also is just preference. But I think less greenery, it looks more floral heavy, which looks more expensive, just in general. But this is just like garden-y looking. So it's already really pretty with just those 3 roses, but we're gonna add a lot of flowers. So I get like different size blooms. My roses were my largest right now, but these are opening up. Stephen thought these were dead because they look like this, but they're not dead. They're just heavy, and so they're dropping. I told Stephen called me, and he was like, your tulips are like touching the table. And I was like, put a penny in it, because someone told me, like, that's like an old vase seller. I think it works, but you put pennies in like the copper or something, makes them stand back up. But I don't know how long that takes, and I've never really tried that. I have this knife here. I'm going to just move that all right. But I kind of like the way he's falling, and I'm going to add that like down someplace in the front because I want to accentuate that. And I'm going to come back. Hold on. I might take this out because I feel like he's competing for some place that I might want to use a flower. And maybe I'll add the Elaeagnus back in, but right now I want to add the tulip there. And also a fun fact about tulips is that they grow after you cut them. So once you put them in the oasis, you have to tuck them in a little tighter than you want them to be, because they'll continue to grow after you cut them and put them in an arrangement. So I'm gonna tuck him in like here, but there's no rules. So, and I'm gonna add some more just so I might cut this guy back too, just so that's where the eye goes to. It's not like the leaf is coming out further than the tulip. All right, I'm gonna add some more of these, but they're not limp. They're just curved. But I think that's fun. I like them when they're curved because I think it gives more movement to a piece, and I really like incorporating movement. Let's see. He's a little curved, so I might snip him here and put him like there. But it's not sticking in. There we go. Let's add another tulip. Also, you can reflex tulips too. It gives them kind of like a tropical more look. And some people like to take out all of the little pollen things. If you don't want that contrast, you can do that. But I don't mind it. So that's like a completely different look of a tulip. But I don't really want that for this one. So back he goes. I'm just going to tuck him in to get a little closer and get some orange in here. I like how these are like paired kind of next to each other, but I want to get some more orange deep in here. So I got these orange spray roses that are like literally almost neon orange. That's a little intense. So I don't know how many I'm going to use, but they look like this, and they're spray roses. And yeah, I got everything from, I keep wanting to call it TJ Maxx. It's not TJ Maxx. It is Trader Joe's. But sometimes they have a lot, sometimes they have a little. But then if you go on Wednesday and they have a little, then you can go back Thursday and maybe they'll have more. So keep going. They stock Thursdays? Every time I go Thursday morning. Really? That's good to know. I'm going to add another droopy one because I like the way that looks. So I'm going to put that right here. See? Kind of looks silly, but I kind of like it silly. So, okay, I'm going to add a couple more spray roses. I like to keep them a little deeper into the arrangement because I don't particularly, I think they look a little bit cheaper. I don't know why, but that in my brain, they just look a little bit cheaper. So I like to put the cheaper flowers in a little closer. I don't know that they are, but I'm just kind of hiding them down and in. And also when I was picking my colors for this, I like to, well, you don't get much choice when you go to Trader Joe's because you kind of just get what they have. But I like to get a gradation, I don't know how you say that. But when you're like picking it out, make sure you don't just have just yellow, just pink, just orange. Like those three colors are pretty, but make sure there's like some coral and some like in-between colors that are like helping like make that transition between colors. So I liked the tulips because they have yellow and orange and like some red almost in them. And so I'm kind of just, I don't know how to describe this part very well, but I've added some orange and I'm gonna go in with some height here. I almost want like to add a couple more roses because we have them. So, and roses is so pretty. I used to not like roses because I thought that they were just like basic and simple, and like everyone does roses. But then you see like and Trader Joe's will stock like garden roses, and they're a little bit more expensive, but they really are. I'm gonna spare you guys. I also blow into the center. I'm not gonna do that with the microphone on, but blowing like pretty hard into the center opens the middle of the flower, and like you can see all those petals that are roughly in there, and yeah, it just opens them. They're less delicate than you think, so just really bend them. Yeah. I broke a couple of them, but that's okay. There's a lot. Yeah, that's okay. So I'm missing some pink in here, so I'm just gonna tuck him kind of deeper in. But while I'm putting my flowers in, I still like to remember my shape, because I'm still like working with that general. I kind of want some more like out here. I might add like a leaf or like something, but yeah, make sure you're like keeping some negative space and not like just shoving every hole. Like don't just like put a flower in like every single spot that there is. But I'm gonna add some pink right here. Tuck him in. Oasis is nice, I think, for beginners because it really just holds like wherever you put it. So I'm gonna put some more pink in the center. Let's see. I really like these tulips. These are, I think they're double something tulips. I always forget, double something. But they have like extra petals, so they're really cute. And so I might reflex like some of these. I like to take all of the leaves off on tulips. Sometimes it looks pretty to have like a little like leaf, but for this arrangement, that's more like springy, I think. And we are going, not that we're not going springy, but this just, it doesn't feel right to me right now, so I'm not going to leave a leaf. I'm gonna reflex some of the outside petals because look how, like, that's so cute. They're so pretty. Okay, I'm gonna put him out here because he's really cool. And I want him to be on display. And you kind of just like look around and then you just decide that's where you want to go. And I'm looking at this and I don't like that these are all the same height. So I'm gonna change something or change the angle or something. I'm gonna snip him a lot lower and then tuck him in, even though he's so pretty. But, okay. Like, I like that better because I didn't like that those were sitting all on the same spot. And I want something up here too. So I might do a rose, but I think that might be a little too heavy. Also, I'm missing some stuff back here. This is gonna be the front of my arrangement, but I still wanna make the back pretty. So I keep smacking that guy on the thing. Okay, so I'm gonna add a rose down here. And you kind of just play and then do whatever you want. And then you kind of just see what it needs. I don't know how to explain that part. You just kind of keep adding until it looks right to you. And I do like the jasmine, so I think I'm going to put in some trailing jasmine. But yeah, you kind of just grab the petals and then pull them to the outside. A more specific way, like you place your thumb at like the center, like at the base of the petal, and then just kind of like reflex it out. These are not behaving very nicely, but I'm just going to snip them and put him in like right here. Tuck him up. See, pretty. And then I'm gonna put some ranunculus in because they're really pretty. These are ranunculus, and they're curly. Like, look at the stem. That's so fun. I'm actually gonna put him like front and center because it's really cute. And I like it when there's just like a little guy dancing up there. I don't like how that's just like really up, so I'm gonna put it at a different angle, and that's better. I think that's cute. And so I'm going to grab some more ranunculus because I don't want him to be the only one in the design. And I'll probably put a little guy, like a little friend right there. But these are both too big. They'll come with little buds, and sometimes I like to use the buds, but sometimes the buds look a little weedy. And also, they break sometimes, so just use this at the bottom. And if he flops, he'll still look cute floppy. Oh, another thing, that you can do after or before is fill your vessel with water. Like the oasis isn't enough, and the oasis will dry out. So just fill that with water as well. I'm going to add a ranunculus in there. So cute. And I have some orange ones. So like playing with that, like, oh, also I forgot about these little guys. I have no idea what these are called. I just call them little guys. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna add some more orange peeking out because I like this little moment here. And this is a hole. There's a hole there, and there's a hole here. And we're just gonna put some flowers in it. And also I want some more color up here. I think I want something orange up here. So I might pick one of my... This? Yeah, I'd say, yeah, there's like some holes. You can see the oasis. Yeah, so I would want you to cover the oasis a little. But this, see, look how curly he is. So cute. Okay, so I'm just putting him in here. And then I think we're almost done. But we just need to add some more like filler.
Rebecca, color-wise,
Uh-huh.
should you not be too matchy-matchy? Is there like a rule?
Matchy-matchy with what?
The color of the flowers. How do you know which colors go together? Right.
I think everything can go together if you use a gray. I didn't even use any of this, but maybe it doesn't need any. But this is good for coverage. Sorry, I have a little ADHD. But I think anything can go together, but it takes some skill and practice to make everything go together. So I think, like, if you want to go with, I don't like blues normally. I think it's hard to make blues work. So if you see blues, there aren't many like naturally occurring blue flowers. So I like things that look more natural, so I like to stay away from blues. But I don't think you're going to find much that doesn't go together, as long as it's not like harsh pink, harsh orange. Like, just make sure that they blend. Does that answer the question? Is that?
Yeah, like, no, I normally would have never put like pink and orange. It looks beautiful, but
Thanks.
going in and buying something or cutting it out of my backyard,
Uh-huh.
I think, oh, let's do pink and orange.
Yeah.
But it looks beautiful.
Thanks. That's really all they had. So that's why I picked pink and orange, because I like bright colors. You can always just do neutrals, like whites. I just like pink. I'm like, why would you not put pink if you can put pink? Yeah.
How far in advance, let's say you're entertaining, arrangements?
You can do it like 2 days in advance. Yeah. You can do it like more than 2 days in advance, but you might have some flowers that start looking sad, and then you might need to like change them out. But yeah, I would say 2 days. I always do it like last minute because I don't know why, but I just accidentally do because I forget that it takes some time, because it does take some time, and then you'll forget, and then you'll be stressed, and then it won't be fun, but it is fun. So it should be fun. So I'm just tucking some of these. I don't know what these are called either, truthfully. I'm just sticking them in where I see some holes, but and like, you don't want also everything to be too bud heavy. So like, that was not a good way of saying it, but like, these are all like the same size. I want to add some like variation in color, texture, size of buds, and yeah, color, texture, size. That's pretty much it. And yeah, not sure. I'm gonna add some of these because they're really whimsical looking. And also, I think that the leaves on these look a little weedy. So I'm gonna like take this and I'm gonna strip like all the leaves. Oh yeah, also when you bring flowers home from a store, cut the ends off like an inch or two, and then you can put the flower food in. That's good for them, apparently. I'm learning. But also take the leaves off that would be in the water for a couple reasons. You can take all the leaves off or you can take them off, but you just don't want them under the water when you're processing them, because the bacteria that live on the leaves that will cause your flowers to die faster, and it also steals nutrients from the flowers that you want going up to the flower. So I'm snipping off all the sad looking guys. And this looks a lot better now. It looked a little weedier, but now it looks pretty. And you can just get any snippers. Like, these are off Amazon, I think. All the ones that have Japanese letters on them are better. Like those, I don't know why, but they just are. So if you can't read the Amazon thing, but it has Japanese letters on them, and the reviews are good, then I would say go for it. I never add like just one stem of anything to it, so those aren't doing it for me as much as I thought they would, and they're taking a lot of time to peel every single leaf off. So I may just not. But I might use them in these because I think they'll look really pretty in there. But I don't know how much time we have. How am I doing on time? Sorry if I'm taking a long time. Hey. Okay, I'm gonna add some. I only added one of these, I think, so I'm gonna add some more of these. Kind of snip it, reflex some. Pretty. Stick it in. I'm kind of going up. You don't only have to curve down, you can also curve up, so I think that's fun. And I need some flowers in here, and I need some coverage along the base here. So I'm just gonna start snipping. And that's really, can y'all see? I don't know if y'all can. I'm gonna tuck this guy in a little deeper. And I also want a rose in there because it kind of just looks like green and orange in the center. Also, I can't tip it because I didn't tape it, so sorry. Just tucking him in. Does anyone else have any other questions? I feel weird not talking. I feel so quiet. Yeah. Uh-huh. I just say whatever comes into my head, and maybe I should not say whatever comes into my head probably most of the time. But he, they're so fun to me. Like, they're so pretty and so fun. So sometimes, I don't know. It's just, I don't have a good answer for that. But sometimes you just, like, like the prettiest flowers, like your favorite ones, that like you'll pick up the bunch and you're like, oh, I'm buying it literally just for this one because it's so pretty. That is your that's your showstopper. And then the other guys are just the supporting staff. I really don't know. I just started playing with flowers at my house growing up, and like we had a farmer's market across the street, and I would just buy flowers, like bulk flowers from like the farmers, and I did not grow up around here. And also we had this place called Produce Junction that just had like buckets and buckets of just like flowers, and not all of them are like nice or expensive, but I would just take them and I would make my friends like, we're doing flower crowns for my birthday party. Like, you have to come over and we're all making flower crowns. Like, and so I just would start like arranging and designing, and then like my friends' moms would be like, can you like do flowers for my birthday party? Or like, can you do this for like my son's graduation party? And I'm just like, yeah. And then I worked for a flower shop, which I didn't enjoy as much, except for when we would do weddings. I really liked doing weddings because I like big events. And so I enjoyed doing weddings. And then I started getting involved with event florists who only do events because I like doing big installations, and those are really fun. And yeah, so that's kind of how it just kind of fell into my lap. And oops, he broke. That's okay. Just tuck him in lower. Do you feel like you're understanding how it's getting built, or am I just going and you just kind of turn, and then there are like some holes, but you can, if you don't have more flowers, you can just use more of your greenery, or you can just shift some things around, or you just have a hole, and that's okay. Negative space. I like it when they like curl out. I just think that's fun. And don't be like afraid, like they have their own little life. So like they will do what they want to do. So I just like adding the curly. I like the guys that have the women. I don't know if this flower is a woman or a man, but I like adding. But I like adding the ones that have the most personality to me when I look at it. So like if it's really curly, I like doing that. I don't like how all these, sorry, this is getting messy. I don't like how all these leaves are, so I'm snipping the leaves off. Not all of them, but just some. Also, this guy's dying a little, so snip. But that's pretty. I like the idea of that, but not where that goes. So maybe here instead. But I like how everything here is going up. And then this is going up and down. Something's dragging, but that's okay. I like it when it touches the ground. This needs some more like interesting stuff in here because there's only like that. It just needs like, let's get a little tiny ranunculus. Snip. And yeah, I would just say to start, play with like shape. Like go out in your backyard and just cut down like parts of your tree. And then just like play with the shape of things. And then when you get to add flowers, it's more fun.
I have another question.
Yeah.
So sometimes I've gotten things from my garden to bring inside.
From what?
Gotten flowers from my garden to bring inside.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have any tips for like shaking away bugs or anything to bring them?
No. Because I just, literally when I was cutting this earlier, I had ants all over me and I was like, ah! And then you just scream a little bit and then you shake them off and then you don't think about it. You just try not, I just try not to think about it. I was literally thinking about that. I've heard people like soaking things and like essential oil people. Like that's so cool. I don't know anything about essential oils, but I've heard of people like soaking things in like thieves. No. Okay, don't do that. Apparently I have no. Oh, I think it like makes the bugs, like you just do a solution of like water and thieves and then like it makes the bugs run away. But I really don't know. I just try not to think about it. But yeah, there are bugs and spiders. Like there were so many spider webs. I was like, don't think about it. And I was just like, but yeah. So I wish I had a better answer. I feel like that's mostly done. So pretty. He's so fun. Yeah, I'm just going to throw together another one. I'm sorry if I'm going over if we don't have time. I'm just literally going to stick stuff in. It'll take like 5 minutes. But I'm putting this guy off to the side. But also, feel free to come up here and tell me to stop. So, I don't know how to end this. I'm just going to keep flowering. I have so many leftovers. But that's okay. Just going to stick. And then you can use the little short guys and then peel the leaves off. Do-do-do. Yep, cover it all. These, I thought these would live. You also, why it's like it's fun practicing is because like you don't know, like I know Iliagnus because I've worked with it, and I know Privet because I've worked with it, but the random pretty stuff, I'm like, let's put you in a vase, or like let's stick you in an oasis and see how long you last, because I don't know. Until you've like done it a little while. This I thought I was going to be able to use, but it's very limp. Does anyone know what that is? It looks like, what is it? Oleander. Oleander. Thank you. It looks like azalea, so I thought that's what it was. But also sometimes you can just use sticks. Like sticks are cool. Like sticks add like movement and stuff. I don't like the way that looks, so I'm sticking that out. So yeah, and these are like fun. You can just use your leftovers in like a little teacup or something. Like, do what you want. I'm adding one out to the side because, like, why not? But if you wanted to, like, accentuate the, like, thing more, you can also get moss and just moss over the top of your oasis and then stick the flowers through. Pretty. I'm going to add some tall ones because why not? And then, so I just greened it out a little bit. And then I'm going to just reflex. Do. Open it up because you want it to be pretty. Do. I don't like that. But I do like that. Do I like that? I don't know. We'll see. We'll keep going. But yeah, just add your leftovers into like a little thing. Or you can do bud vases. Bud vases are really fun. And just like they have like a little hole at the top. I thrift sometimes like salt and pepper shakers and then just take the tops off and then just like you'll have something that'll break off and it'll be tiny. That's what Sophie and I have all over our house because I'm like, these broke off and they're still pretty, so I need to use them. Reflex. Sometimes your roses will reflex so pretty you'll be like, I can't stop looking at you. Or maybe that's just me. But he is like a little chunkier, so I'm going to leave him a little shorter. And you can do like, if you have a lot of leftovers, you can just do really floral heavy. And then pretty. But it is harder to cover the oasis. But yeah. But this little guy was like $3. And like, how could you not get a little thing for $3 and then put flowers in it? Also, if you're in a pinch and you don't have clippers, you can just use nature's clippers, which are your fingers. Okie doke. This guy's almost done.
So do you have to throw the oasis away when it's done? You can't let it dry out and get it
No, it'll like disintegrate. It'll like evaporate into like chalky dust, which is sad. Which is also why it's not as good for the environment because you can't reuse it. Not that it'll really hold it. That's why you can just use this and then moss over top. And it really does hold like your stems. You make a little thing so that when you put it in, but sometimes it falls. That's the thing. And you just got to work with it. But like, it's not a good example, but you can make it so that it will be good. So I don't like this one as much, but that's okay. Yep, just add all your leftovers. And the droopy guys. I don't really know what I'm doing with this one as much, but I do want to add it like that. Or pink. Do I like that? No. Shorter. If you can afford to put way, way, way too much in it, then like do it. I don't think that there's like too much. You'll know it, like you won't be able to do too much in Oasis, especially because there won't be space in the foam for it. So this one isn't as pretty as that one in my opinion, but you can just keep adding. Sorry, I'm going really long. I don't think that's true. I know that's how they came. That's how they came here, but I'm pretty sure that's just how they came to America. I don't think it has lice, right? But I could be wrong. Does anyone else know? I've wanted to design with Spanish moss. Maybe I'll just try it out.
Like at the zoo? Yeah. They still play in sandboxes is what I'm asking. We went to the beach for the first time like 2 years ago. She can't do the sun or sand or water. She can't do any of it. Oh, what a There's always sad childhood. Anywho. We went to the zoo. We were not there to play in the jaguar jungle or whatever. The jaguar jungle. No. Don't go in there. We're not here for that. And we got rubber sticks. Right. Please. Yeah. But y'all know a lot about animals, don't you? Where's Stephen Matthews? That's right. And never had a flea bite.
We have digressed. Okay, this one's basically done. So, yep, that's all. You can just stick your leftovers in a little thing. And then if you see space at the bottom, just stick, this is like a little fuller than I would have liked, but yeah, just stick it in. And stick some of this in. Just grab it. I don't know what it's called. It's like basically paper. Just stick it in. Okay, the end. Yeah.
Are you auctioning those off today?
Yeah, if y'all want to take them. Y'all can take some. This one, I want to keep designing in that one, but this one, I don't have any.
I like that.
I don't have any ties to that. I just thrifted it. So yeah, thrift it. Thrift your stuff. It's so fun. I'm just sticking these in. Alrighty, the end. I don't know how to end. Yeah. I'm just gonna keep going. I can't.